Philosophy undergrad at King's College London, the current Vice-Chair of UKSEDS, which is the UK's National Student Space Society, and I also work with the Space Science and Engineering Foundation, who run space settlement design competitions for students aged 10 to 18. I'm very excited to be presenting MajorTim.space's 10-minute star-striking fact for this week, especially because it's being aired on the 20th of July, which just so happens to be the anniversary of the first moon landing. You've already heard a bit about Neil Armstrong's first words from James Hansen in week 14, so I thought I'd talk about the space race, which led up to this momentous occasion. The space race was a competition between America and the Soviet Union during the Cold War, which was already a point of geopolitical tension between the two countries, but it was particularly significant because both of these countries were attempting to show the world who had the best science, technology, and economy, and ultimately whether capitalism or communism was more successful. Now, there's some disagreement on when the space race actually started. Some historians will say it started in 1955, when America declared plans to launch an artificial satellite into space, while others will say it started in 1957, when the Soviet Union actually launched the first satellite into space. Sputnik 1 made history when it was sent into orbit on an intercontinental ballistic missile in October 1957, and it was closely followed in November by Sputnik 2, which sent the first animal, Laika the dog, into space. These were really significant milestones for humanity, and came as quite a surprise to a lot of people. Although Sputnik was small, it was very reflective, and therefore visible from Earth through binoculars, or possibly even the naked eye if you look hard enough. Because these payloads were being launched on missiles capable of delivering warheads into international airspace, it's safe to say that this wasn't a good surprise for everyone. In fact, on hearing this, President Eisenhower ordered Project Vanguard, the American satellite mission, to move up its timetable and launch much sooner than they'd originally planned. So in December 1957, the Vanguard test vehicle 3 was ready to go, but it failed on launch about 4 feet into the air. The main engine lost thrust, and the rocket fell back into the launch pad, exploding in a huge fireball, all while being broadcast on live television. In January 1958, America tried again and managed to successfully launch Explorer 1, designed by the US Army under Wernher von Braun, a leading German rocket engineer who moved to America after World War II and is often considered to be one of the champions of space exploration. That year, President Eisenhower also signed a public order to create the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, which we more commonly know as NASA, a federal agency dedicated to space exploration. This shows just how seriously the Americans were taking this space race. For the next few years, both the Soviet Union and America dedicated resources to sending various satellites into space, so that they could test out their tech and improve their designs. This included SCORE, the world's first communication satellite, which was launched by America in December 1958, and was the first to broadcast a human voice in space. Explorer 6 launched in August 1959 and was the world's first weather satellite and the first to obtain pictures of Earth from space. The Soviet Union launched Luna 3, which orbited the moon and managed to take photographs of its far side. In April 1961, Yuri Gagarin became the first human in space, traveling on the Soviet Union's Vostok 1. This was closely followed by Alan Shepard in May that year, who performed the first pilot-controlled spaceflight mission as part of the Mercury series. But nevertheless, America felt like they were falling behind. This prompted President Kennedy to declare in front of Congress in May 1961 that they would put the first American on the moon by the end of the decade. And so came the Apollo missions. Apollo was the third American spaceflight program and set several milestones. The mission used Saturn I boosters for Earth orbit flights and Saturn V boosters for lunar flights. And each spacecraft was made up of 3 main parts: the command module, which acted as the crew's quarters and flight control section, the service module, for propulsion in spacecraft support systems, and finally the lunar module, which could take 2 of the crew to the lunar surface, support them while they were there, and return them safely to the rest of the orbiting spacecraft. So the Apollo missions got off to a bit of a rocky start when all 3 Apollo 1 crew members died in a fire during a launch pad test in 1967. So they were unable to escape from the hatch, and this led to major changes in the lunar module design. Due to NASA's naming conventions, we seem to skip over Apollo 2 and 3 and move straight to Apollo 4, which was uncrewed. This was followed by 5 and 6, which are also uncrewed, and the next crewed mission we see is Apollo 7. So that was the first crewed mission to be broadcast on public TV. Apollo 8 made 10 lunar orbits in 20 hours, 9 demonstrated a portable life support system to be used on the lunar surface, and 10 acted as a dress rehearsal for the first lunar landing, flying 15 kilometers from the lunar surface. And in July 1969, just in time for Kennedy's deadline, Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, and Michael Collins landed on the moon with Apollo 11. This was not just the first moon landing, but it was the first time anyone had set foot on another celestial body, and then had to launch back from it. Although there were moon landings after this, Apollo 11 is often seen as the pinnacle of the space race, and sometimes even considered the winning factor. However, other historians claim that the space race lasted until 1991, when the Cold War ended and the Soviet Union collapsed. So I hope you've enjoyed this somewhat whistle-stop tour through the space race, and we'll keep tuning in to hear more star-striking space facts. I thought I'd leave you with one more fact, which I actually learned while reading up before filming this, and that is that before Kennedy's assassination, there were actually discussions between the Soviet Union and America about working together to put the first man on the moon. But this was abandoned after Kennedy's death. I, for one, can't help but wonder how different the space exploration landscape could be today if they had worked as a team, but I guess we'll never know. So thank you so much for listening, and I hope you've enjoyed this week's Star Striking Space Fact.